So, hi everyone, welcome to Village in the City call number 4, and we're here today to particularly talk about the benefits of community, and we're delighted to welcome as our very, very special guest, Sanderson Jones, who's here. Sanderson is the founder of Sunday Assembly Movement and is also now involved in a thing called Lifefulness, which is about how to bring the power of community to you wherever you are. And so I can't think of a better person to be talking about the benefits of community than Sanderson. Just to get the call underway, I'm just going to share I'm just going to share some. Whoops, where are we? Share a little bit about why we do this. So here's the call. Why do we want to build our villages in the city? Well, we want to improve our lives. We want to build inclusive cross-generation and cross-demographic connections as a way of healing a divided world. We want to build resilience and mutual support so it's there when we need it. We want to connect everybody in the area with an identity and local participation. We want to act as a counterbalance to the amazing online communication developments. It's great to communicate online like this. It's also really great to communicate face to face with people who share the same few square meters as you do. And it's every village helps citizens become more purposefully connected and more empowered. And the Village in the City manifesto identifies 6 elements of a village. Inclusivity, so that everyone who lives there is a member, quotes. Meeting places where people can come together formally and informally, just bumping into each other. Connection and communication between the villages, the people in the village. Hosts or village builders who act purposefully to help things to happen. Inclusive gatherings and where people can get together, and an identity about what makes this a special place. So, a little news update. We now have 4 villages on our map, which is absolutely fantastic. And all 4 village builders are with us on the call. There's Randy from Russo in Lincoln, Nebraska. There's Leah from Dragolevci in Sofia, Bulgaria. And there's Jody, who is joining on behalf of his community in Bolivia. So that's an amazing widespread of people for such a nascent project as this. So before we go any further, I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to invite Randy and Leah and if you want Jody to just say a few words about what you've been getting up to since we spoke last time.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
I just
Jody.
can spend hello, hi, thank you. Just want to spend few words about what I've been doing in Bolivia. I was basically create a space, like an informal space in bar, restaurant, pub, discotheque, into the wood, where people can get connect each other between local people, like Bolivian people, and travelers. So a connection between international people and local people to build connection based on languages and traveling stories. So each Tuesday we used to organize events all around Bolivia, and I create this community that's still working, except now that because of the COVID we have to stop events. So yeah,
So thank you.
community based on language exchange meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jody. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Leah, what have you been getting up to in Bulgaria there?
We started with turning a barren, ugly place into a garden. And because of its shape, we called it the triangle. And we turned this place into a garden. And I'm very glad that it so happened that we have something material to hold on to. And the next step, not counting the conversations around the garden, the next step was a gathering, which happened 2 weeks ago. And we got to know each other. We drank some wine. And we had two further steps. We decided on two further steps. One was to turn the rubbish bin place into something more presentable. And the letter was already, because it turned out that we have to ask permission for that. So we wrote a letter to the local authorities, no response yet. And also, it's really interesting for the place where I live. It turns out that the generation before us were writers and journalists and creative people altogether. And now we either bought off their sites, their houses, or their descendants live there. Sons, daughters, grandchildren, or whatever. So we decided to write the history of the place. And I've sent to everybody the history of our site. And I'm expecting more people to write. And we had a power cut, several power cuts yesterday. And there was a lively communication. Due to them, we lost internet. And due to the power cut, there was such a storm of exchanging email messages in the group we set up, in the Viber group we set up. So I'm really, really happy. A disaster, no internet, actually turned into a connection.
Excellent.
That's what is happening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Leah, excuse me. Leah. And Randy, hi there in the United States. You sent me
Hello
some
there.
pictures.
We have two things that have been happening in my neck of the woods. One is there on the left, you can see we called it a pumpkin grab. And the fellow standing in the truck has a farm outside the city, and he grew these pumpkins. And that doesn't show the full crowd. We had a good crowd of people that came out on the street on Sunday evening. And the kids got the first grab of the pumpkins, and then the adults each got a pumpkin if they wanted one. And so that goes in with our fall season. And the second thing on the right, you can see a friend of mine putting a tag up on a tree. We call that our gratitude tree. And it's a very simple little project. You can see I put a string in the tree. We bought some tags online and put them in a box. And so people can walk by and write down what they're thankful for and hang it in our gratitude tree. What you can't see is a little sign that I had made that I posted right behind the woman standing there that just simply says gratitude tree, share something you're thankful for. So next time we get together, I'll have a list of a few things that people are thankful for, but it's been really encouraging to see those colored tags hanging on the tree.
Thank you, Randy. That's terrific. And it's also interesting to see how people can engage still, even with the need to be distant and physically distant and so on. There's all sorts of ways we can get to engage with people. We're
fortunate. We live on the cul-de-sac, and so we just stand out in the circle. And there aren't many trucks or cars that come by. We did have a fire truck come down our street one day, but they weren't coming with the full siren and lights flashing. They were looking for a house to help somebody that had fallen, and they were actually on the wrong street. But that's the most excitement we've had when we've been standing in the street.
Okay, well, that's great. So thank you so much, Randy. And these are all villages that are on our map, and you too can get on our map. And the quick way to get on our map is we've got a new idea, thanks to Richard, which is that anyone can say that you're starting a startup village. You're just keen to get things going, and there's a little Google form which I've just put in the chat, which is a way of you signing up to kind of join the project and say that you want to get started, and I can put you on our map as a startup village. And in order to help you and help everybody, we also have the first issue of our village building handbook, which is now out. And I've put the link to that in the chat as well. PDF. It's got ideas not only from me, but from all of our village builders so far. And I'm pretty pleased with it as a start. So that's there for you to download. The link is in the chat.
I think we should give Mark a round of applause for that. There's a way of doing that in chat, but he put a lot of love and effort into that handbook, and it's not an easy thing to do. There's this reaction button. You can either do what Sanderson way, like this, or you can do this even. If you're feeling particularly emotional. And the other thing is, I just take the 30 seconds mark just to say that as a TEDx organizer, getting a TEDx off the ground is really tough. And there's this hiatus between wanting to get it going and getting a license. And we want to try and make it easy for people who just want to try to build a village, and it may fail. You may be strung up from a local lamppost, executed, but at least you'll have tried. Sorry, that's my sense of humour kicking, and I'll shut up.
Yeah. So just to recap all that, there's a village building handbook is now out. You can join as a startup village, and just to say, our next call is Wednesday, the 11th of November, with Nick Bowery, who is another of our regular participants here. So, but more of that later on in the call. So thanks everyone. So that's what's happening in the project, and it's now time to talk to our special guest. And as I mentioned, Sanderson is a real live wire in the world of community building, and he brings a great spirit and a light touch as well to his work, along with huge commitment. And we're very, very thrilled to have him today. I've known him since I got involved with Sunday Assembly right back in 2013 when it started, and I'll be pleased to say we've been friends and colleagues ever since. So really pleased to have you with us, Sanderson. So please, benefits of community, tell us about it. Now you can unmute yourself.
Unmute myself. Hello there, everyone. How is it going? Yeah. Give me a wave. Give me a wave. Go on. That's it. Get on gallery view. And shall I tell you what? I think we are distant. I know we're distant, but let's see if we can still somehow create a human chain of connection across the world. I'm going to invite you to stretch your arms out like that, but then try to line them up with the person next to you, if possible. And then we're just gonna, just lean to the left. Oh my gosh, we've made just try to keep your arms connected, and also just have a bit of a stretch. There we go. Look at that. We're sort of, some people are still going for it. I love it. Very enthusiastic. So, hello there. My name is Sanderson. By the way, can everyone hear me clearly? If you can, give me the double thumbs up. Double thumbs up. There we go. Super. And I am going to be talking to you about the benefits of community, and also introducing you to this idea of lifefulness, which is born out of the Sunday Assembly. There's so much that I want to talk to you about. If I make it to the end of the presentation, I'll be surprised. So I'm going to just go here, because I'm going to have a few visual things, because it's I always find it useful to help me remember what's being spoken about. And so the Lifefulness Project is the social enterprise which I started in March, and it is dedicated to this idea of lifefulness, which we'll get into more later on. But this is my working definition of it, that lifefulness adapts the techniques of the spiritual community in a way that everyone can take part. If that still sounds a bit abstract, don't worry, we'll get into it more as we go. And the vision for the Lifefulness Project is a world where everyone lives a life that matters to them with people that they care about, because we're all about meaning and belonging. And the reason that the Lifefulness Project looks to the spiritual community, looks to the congregation, is because this is a social structure which has worked time and time again to build that connection and to answer these fundamental needs. I wasn't always in the secular congregation world. I mean, how do you even end up in it? I'll just give you a bit of background. Before doing that, before launching this in 2013, I was a stand-up comedian. The show which sort of I ended up becoming a professional through was a show where I sold every single ticket by hand. So I've always liked these big, ambitious projects. What I really loved about it is that way I would know everyone in the crowd, and I'd be like, hey, Randy, how's it going? And, you know, I'd know everyone there. But then, Randy, the thing which really surprised people is that I would then research them online and incorporate their social media into the show. This is an example of it. Is that this is a woman called Kate who came along to a show. She was one of those people who on social media only has one smile. Yeah, it's pretty hypnotic. It took a lot of time. And then I ended up in 2012. I thought, what's the most ridiculous place I could take a hand-sold show? And ended up taking it to the Sydney Opera House, which was, yeah, a load of fun. And that's a tale for a whole other talk. But in 2013, I started with my friend Pippa Evans, another comedian, Sunday Assembly. And it's based on this really simple idea, which is, wouldn't it be great if there was something like a church, a mosque or a synagogue, but which everyone could come to? For me, the idea came when I left a Christmas carol service, and I was like, I love all the elements of it. I just happen to be not religious, nothing against it, just not for me. And so at Sunday Assembly, what we did is, this is the launch of one in East End, is people would gather on a Sunday. We would sing pop songs. I don't know if people here have yet heard Mark on the saxophone, but he has played along to many a power ballad. People could move if they wanted to, whatever form took them. I'm just going to tell you right now, Sunday Assembly is not home to the greatest dancers in the world, inspired by me at the front. Then there'd be an inspiring TED-style talk. Richard mentioned TEDx, and it's like that sort of thing, educational, informative, inspiring. And there'd be a moment to, just a moment of mindfulness, a moment of stillness, a moment of contemplation, but like the service of all these different elements was to build an inclusive community, a community which no matter what people believed, they would be welcome there. And yeah, so that started in 2013. I'm just going to quickly stop this and start again because I want to play sound. And I don't know if I clicked the sound button, but I have now. And then it was very strange. It was started off as an experiment, and it just really tapped into this unmet need, a need which you guys are also answering by building villages. It's our desire for connection. It's our desire for belonging. It's our desire to be in relationship with people. And these are all things which are being undercut by society as it stands. So many of the major tech trends are sort of pointing in the direction of disconnection. There's a reason that during coronavirus, where we're more disconnected than ever, all the stocks in tech companies have just gone up because they benefit from these things. And you guys are part of the counterculture. It's super important, this work. And I just thought I'd share one clip from this is when the launch of Sunday Assembly in Nashville. When I started this in North London, I never expected us to be on Fox News, but let's hear what they had to say.
Well, a new church is shaking things up in the Bible Belt. It's an atheist church called Sunday Assembly.
Now, it's actually founded in London, and now it's spreading. Dozens of congregations around the world, and now Nashville is being added to that list.
There we go. Super weird. When I was interviewed by Fox News, I met a woman who just had hair like I've never seen before. So big, so seemingly solid, so coiffed. And so then that's what, that's a charity and it's spread all over the world. But in 2017, my career and my work went in a different direction because, and so I've started to work on this idea of lifefulness and sort of dedicating myself to the idea rather than the organization of Sunday Assembly. And the way lifefulness started was, as I did Sunday Assembly, I sort of researched it more, just totally, I knew that this was my vocation and I just did so much reading on it. And I found out sort of more about the start of mindfulness. Going to ask everyone here, by a show of hands, put your hands up if you've heard of mindfulness. Let me quickly go and have a look at. There we go. Yes. Some people have heard of, most people have. Okay, there's a lot of hands up. I'll still do a quick refresher. Is that this guy here, he's called Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he looks very happy, good for his age. And in 1979, he was a Buddhist practitioner, and he describes it as a vision where he said he suddenly saw like that this Buddhist meditation practice that he was doing could help so many of his patients in hospital. But he knew he couldn't go in there and say, all right there, guys, shave your heads, pop on the orange robes, we're going Buddhist. No, you can't prescribe Buddhism in the American medical system, or really any medical system. And so what he did is he took this practice and he went and described it in a language which was secular, which was inclusive, and he started to create an evidence base for it. And so when I heard about that, I realized that sort of Pippa and I, like without planning to do it, we had done for congregation what Jon Kabat-Zinn had done for meditation. Like we had shown how you can use these sets of tools and techniques, which we might think of as religious, in a way that everyone can use them. And then as I was sort of, going on this journey, I also learned about different ways to create impact, and about this idea of creating indirect impact. And that's where, instead of only doing things through your organization, what you do is you teach people an idea, much as I'm introducing an idea to you now. You can see it in practice, and show how actually if other people can learn to this idea and put it into practice where they are, then that's a far more effective way of creating an impact. And so that's how I started to go onto this lifefulness journey, taking all of the lessons that we had learned at Sunday Assembly and showing how everyone could do them. And so again, this thing of lifefulness adapts the techniques of the spiritual community in a way that everyone can take part. And hold on one second. My wife is at the door. I will come back to you in just one moment. Please don't cause trouble or throw paper aeroplanes whilst I'm away.
So we can all now talk about Sanderson behind his back while he. This is the perils of the modern world, I think.
His wife is at the door. All right, Mark, I want you to get your saxophone out and make a little noise for us.
I think it's the perils of the connected world.
Have we lost control? Are people passing romantic notes to each other, or is it still okay? And so that's where this idea of lifefulness comes from. Even the word sounds the same, because as you go and think about your village, I think it's a really useful lens for thinking about your activities. And the more I did research on it, the more I looked at the sort of health benefits and of community, and particularly communities of meaning, then I actually realized that I thought that it was really mindfulness was this idea that had been copied. But the more I looked at it, I saw so many other ideas which had come from spiritual practices originally. Here are a few. The university that was originally designed to train priests. Yoga, now everyone does it, but in fact, that's a Hindu practice. Hospitals, if we think about the start of hospitals, we see the modern medical doctors now, we don't call them secular and inclusive shamans, but that's, what they are. And even rock and roll, the moves which Elvis and Little Richard used, they were taken from the Pentecostal and gospel churches of the Deep South. So much of what we've done comes from looking at practices which were originally considered sacred. And it was particularly when looking at the benefits of this. And that's one thing at Sunday Assembly we made a great effort on, is to go and look at the health benefits of community. And by the way, in case you think this is a sort of only outside of, only sort of in people's personal life, this has also got, the work that you're doing has also got huge applications in the workplace and in your workplace. For instance, as one, there's so much research on this, but this one sort of really struck me, that meaning is the #1 factor that millennials look for in work. And there's just so many arresting statistics about the benefits of community. This one here from a huge meta-analysis of research on loneliness showed that, you know, having sort of, as it says here, weak relationships and social support, low social integration, you know, if people aren't connected, it's worse for your health than smoking more than 15 cigarettes a day, heavy drinking, and not exercising. You know, this is like at the root of a huge public health crisis. I have asked sort of researcher friends of mine whether this means that if you've got really amazing community, whether you can smoke fags, booze the whole time and not do any exercise. But apparently that is not the lesson that you should take from this graph. And in our own research at Sunday Assembly, we saw that, yeah, that like people taking part in sort of these community activities, particularly ones which are sort of centered around meaning, centered around fundamental questions, of people who, of the sort of broad population, 88% felt a greater sense of community, 80% had an increase in life satisfaction, and 87% felt happier. What's really interesting is that this is, whilst the effect is diminished, these same trends could be seen in attendees with mental ill health. They 76% felt a greater sense of community, 78% had an increase in life satisfaction, and 85% felt happier. One moment. And what's really interesting is, again, we went and sort of not only did our own research, but encouraged other researchers to come in. There was a team from Brunel University and then Oxford University. I say team, they were each in these different respected universities. Sounds like there were 50 of them. 2 researchers from different universities. And they went and did a 6-month longitudinal survey, studying people at the beginning and the end, of the impact of being part of Sunday Assembly, a lifefulness community. And they found that there was an increase in well-being, particularly through the small group activities. But one of the most fascinating things about this piece of research, because when John Kabat-Zinn was bringing out mindfulness research, of like saying, oh, actually meditation is really good for you, you know, that found it quite easy to go and get published, is that these 2 researchers found it so hard to get this research published because to all the academic journals they went to, these journals said, what, so you're telling us that attending a congregation is good for your health? That is one of the most well-established piece of research that there is. And what's fascinating is that in this research on being part of a congregational community, and, you know, these things also apply in different communities. This is my area of specialty, is that what's interesting is even if you attend these congregations or spiritual communities and you don't believe in what people are talking about, you're just being dragged along by your wife or husband, you still get these improvements. And so our poor researchers, they found it really hard to get it published, though eventually they did, because the evidence that community is good for you is something which is, as I said, so well established. And I thought I'd say that, like, give some examples. For instance, being part of that's downloaded at a really low resolution, and that troubles me. So people who being part, it's improved now, phew. Being part of a congregational or spiritual community improves makes you happier and decreases your chance of having mental ill health. It also makes you live longer. People who are part of congregational communities also earn more money as well. And this is, by the way, these are not the selling points of why you should join a community, but I think we should maybe use them more. And it also, people who are part of congregational or spiritual communities, their relationships last longer. And this is one I think we should lead with more often. They not only last longer, but they also have more sex. So look, hey, there you go. Who doesn't want that? That should be. By the way, it's incredibly hard to find sort of appropriate images of sex to share on the internet. Any other type, there are a million. And so, like I said, so again, this one thing is that Lifefulness adapts the techniques of the spiritual community in a way that everyone can take part. And I hope that I've showed you the benefits of being part of a community. If you're on this call, you already know them. But I thought I'd take I think I came on at 19 past, so I'm going to go until 39 minutes past. All good? Okay, great. But I thought that it would also be useful just to go and give you an idea of like the different parts of Lifefulness, so you can go and think about when you're building your village, oh, actually, what are some of the different activities that go into making a spiritual community or congregation. And the model that we've adapted has 6 key principles, and each one of these I could talk for a day about, so I'm just going to go and give them to you in an overview very quickly. Is that one, it is around connecting everyone. People go there, their ultimate meaning. Some people will use a religious language to describe that, but if you're not religious, everyone has got this purpose, this deep, deep purpose, which motivates them. And then there's these 5 core activities: purposeful celebration, which is our we could call it secular worship, but we want to get away from that religious language. But these activities as a group or individuals, which connects you to it. There's community life. There's an idea of personal growth. And again, I'd ask you when you're doing this to think about, like, how are you getting this from building your village or being part of your village? There's this idea of serving others and the idea of changing the world. Again, with that one, the sort of best translation of it is probably spreading the word, because that's our translation of evangelism. But I think it's a tiny bit self-serving to have a part of your sort of model, which is also do my marketing for me. But that idea of changing the world and wanting to spread the work that you do. And so the way that I look at it is that, like, this is a lens. There's lots of different ways that you can look at it. Your community as a village. You could go and look at it as an army or whatever it might be. But like, maybe you're just looking at one event. Maybe you're looking at your own life. That this is something which goes and gives you some useful tools to help you along the way. And if you're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the Lifefulness model, just this simple question is quite help. How would a spiritual community or congregation create community? You instinctively know this. You would instinctively have got a feel for it. So just to have that, of like, if you really want to connect to people's fundamental drivers, then just ask yourself this: how would a spiritual community or congregation create community? So I'm going to end there. But before I go, I will say that if you want to find out more about it, I've put those on another slide. So we have a Lifefulness podcast. Please do go and download it. It is really exciting. It's only launched a month ago, and we've already had fantastic reactions to it. It's a longer form exploration of these big questions around it. The other work that we do at the Lifefulness Project is helping company with culture, well-being, remote work and away days through doing talks, training and facilitation. And if you want to get connected locally, we also do Lifefulness small groups, which you can go and find through lifefulness.io/membership. So that is only overrunning by a minute, which for me, Mark, must be some form of record. That's the best I've done yet.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Sanderson. Thanks for sharing all of that. Folks, I want to make sure we do have time for some small group chats, but let's first of all see questions for Sanderson while he's with us. So You can either just unmute yourself and wave your arms around, or you can write them in the chat if you're feeling a little bit more bashful. So who's got a question or a comment about what you've just heard?
Well, thank you so much. It was really inspiring, the sharing, and really thanks. And I was thinking about like the importance of entertainment to build connection. If you have like the feeling that it's really important, like also let people having this flow of connection through the entertainment, through the happiness. So yeah, that's the feeling that I have, and I think that it's important if you can maybe like share something about like whatever. Yeah.
So like I think a lot of that desire we have for transcendence, for being lifted up, for feeling part of a crowd. There's Durkheim, who is the sociologist who has really started off this research into looking at religions from a social science point of view. He called it collective effervescence, la effervencia colectiva, maybe. So, you know, it might have the word entertainment, but it is so important. Those moments when we are able to go and, like, sometimes it's like where we feel both very small and very big at the same time, where we feel most ourselves, but most part of a crowd. And like a lot of this desire for those moments has now sort of gone into the arts. And so we've got this word entertainment for it. But in fact, I'd say it's far more important than that. Like Mark on his saxophone is a vital part of this. And so finding those moments where people do lose themselves is, it's also a way of demonstrating to people before they are part of a community what a community feels like. Because it takes a while to know people's names and to be checking in on each other. But in that moment where we're transported, we have that feeling. And it's like the taster for what's to come. I could wang on about this forever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. An absolute pleasure. There's a hand there.
Adrian, hello. Unmute yourself.
Hi. Sorry I joined a bit late, but inspirational talk. I'm just wondering, maybe it's been mentioned or you've covered it, but for the Sunday assemblies or this congregational spirit and energy, is there some way that you also use it constructively within the neighbourhood or the village for something like a project, say? We've got a bit of a messy village at the moment. How are we going to clean it up? Is there anything like that?
That is where I went over it very quickly, and that is a vital part of it. And that's serving. That's that part there, serving others. And so, there it is about. Sort of going and like actually doing things. And sometimes the serving others will be different. People will have different ways of serving. And sometimes it might be looking after the community itself, making sure that your village inside a village, someone's like sending out the minutes, whatever it might be. There's always people who love the minutes. I'm not one of them. And then there is going and volunteering and doing other things. One thing which I think is really useful for having this model is because you often end up getting into a discussion about whether, it's about this. Oh, it's about this. And actually saying, like, all of these are important and they are like tastes in a dish. Like if you've got too much of one or too much of the other, then it's about having it balanced. And so that's why we would get into those discussions. And for some people, they're going to be like, some people want to sing in the band, but like then other people are going to be like really community focused. But it's about saying like you need to do all of these things a little bit, but also we need to go and look at all of these different areas.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sanderson. It's one of the things that struck me when I came to this idea of the village being quite a small thing, is that in a way one would want sort of communities like this in every little patch. So when you started Sunday Assembly London and I joined in with you very, very rapidly, that's a city of 8 million people and one Sunday Assembly. Actually, but if you look at the church's model, there's a parish in every little patch, and really, in a way, I'm thinking that in a perfect world, one might have a Sunday Assembly in every patch as well, which is a radically different way of doing it than having one one or two in a big city. But maybe we'll come towards that as things go on.
Yeah, well, I think there's something interesting from thinking about this of. This is something I think about a lot of like, is it best to just be like with the Lifefulness Project going, I'm in Southeast London, it's going to be far better to like work out what 200 people in Southeast London looks like, or 300, and then let's move to the next one, and then let's move to the next one. So there is like, as you guys go and develop this, you'll probably also have those same questions. And then that also does point to like stuff that, again, thinking like a church, they like to knock on a door. Like this is stuff, you've got something great that you want to talk to people about, you'd love them to get involved, knock on a door, have a conversation. It's as simple as that.
And this is what we learned from Lara when she ran gave us her session a couple of months ago about how they started off leafleting and knocking on doors in quite a small area of Edinburgh, and she's worked wonders in building community there. So we've got time for I'd like to give you the chance to talk to each other now. So we're going to go into a short breakout room session, about 8 minutes. 4 people in a group. Have a chat about what you're thinking about village building. Have a chat about how you're getting on. Have a chat about what you've heard today from Sanderson. And I'll see you all in a few minutes' time. Okay, here we go. So you should have a thing coming up saying join the group. And I hope you'll just take the chance to do that. Lara, hello there. I only just noticed your post in the chat. Would you be prepared to take a moment to, when everyone's
If you
come
think
back?
people will be interested, sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure they would. Is Edwin wearing his sunglasses indoors or something? Or oh no, this is a Zoom thing, isn't it?
Yeah, is it what do you call it? A filter
Zoom
or
thing.
something?
Yes. Oh, very good. Oh, hi, Anton. Nice to see you.
Hi, Martin. Good to see you.
Glad you could join us. So here comes everybody back. So welcome back, everybody. A few people. Somebody's opening their packet of crisps there in the background, I think. Let's mute all to start with. So thank you all for that. Just as we went into the chat, Lara posted some great stuff about what she's doing in Willowbrae, which is a village that we heard about, her village in the city kind of thing that we heard about a couple of months ago. So Lara, do you want to take a moment just to talk about some of these things, because there's great ideas in there.
Sure. I mean, I suppose our community's been growing for about seven years now. We've always had a big annual street party where we've closed the street and people have come down onto the street to share food, and it's always been very social and really nice. And of course, unfortunately, this year is the first year in 7 years we weren't able to do that thanks to COVID. And I think that makes everything a lot more challenging now, because I think one of the nicest ways to connect with other people is over food and drink. So we're planning to have, which will be a first for us, an online quiz where we're going to invite our neighbours to participate. We're hopefully going to involve the neighbours in setting some of the questions on local history, local knowledge, who lives where. We're very close to Holyrood Park, so we'll maybe have some local natural history questions as well. I have never done an online quiz before, so if anyone has any tips, feel free to share them with me as well. And a couple of other things that we're doing, which are COVID safe, is a window Wonderland, which I don't know if people have come across that, but it's a really lovely idea where neighbours are invited to decorate the windows of their homes, or indeed the windows of their cars if they want to as well, and light them up on a set date in a set window of time. And then people can wander the neighbourhood and get to legitimately peer into their neighbours' windows as well. So it's quite a creative thing to do. And this year we're going to tie that in with Two Absent Friends Festival, which is a festival in Scotland that runs the first week in November every year, a festival of remembrance and storytelling. So the theme there is really reflecting on loved ones who have died, and we're hoping that people will express that creatively through their windows. So that's one thing we're doing. And the other thing that we're doing, again, which is COVID safe, because it's utilising people's windows, which is a pumpkin or a lantern trail where people will be invited to display either carved turnips or pumpkins or pictures or drawings of pumpkins or things like that on Halloween. And again, people will have the opportunity to walk around their neighbourhood and look at them as well. So those are a couple of things that we're doing. But I do miss the cake and the wine and the food. Thank you.
No, thank you, Laura. Thank you. And it's this is a game, it seems to me, and some of these things, they sound quite modest on their own, but actually you can make a great big difference with some quite small things that invite people to get engaged, get involved, and particularly these days that they can do that safely. So lots of great ideas there. Here in the West End of Edinburgh, we're planning an advent calendar window project where every day a new window gets unveiled either by one of the shopkeepers or one of the residents. So it builds up into a walk that people can do during December. So that's something that we're doing. So look, we're just about coming up for time, folks. I want to share some news about the next call, which is going to be on the 11th of November. So it's 5 weeks today. And we've been hearing from Sanderson today about the power of sort of secular community, if you like. But if we're going to be really inclusive in our villages, we also need to engage with the churches. And so we're going to be having a session with the Reverend Nick Bowery, who's one of our regular participants. He's not here today, but he normally is. He's a minister in Scotland, very, very keen on community building. And we want to hear from him about what are the good ways to engage with your local church, to involve them in your community building activities. So I think that's going to be a very, very interesting session. And I've put the booking link in the chat. It's all set up, so if you want to book, you can click on that and register for a place now. Just advance warning, the next call after that is 4 weeks later, the 9th of December, when we are very pleased to welcome Cormac Russell to Village in the City. He's an asset-based community development expert and quite a radical in his field, and I like his work very much. And he's very kindly agreed to come and give us a talk there. Obviously, Sasha knows about him, and I think one or two others do as well. So Titus does too. So Cormac is going to be our December guest, and we'll be looking to set up some more things, obviously, in the new year. Anyway, so there's 2 great calls coming up. Thanks to everyone who's come today, particularly big thanks to Sanderson for sharing all that great stuff about the benefits of community. And do download the Village Building Handbook. Do put yourself on the map as a startup, even if you're keen, even if you don't have anyone else to work with yet. And join the Facebook group, and we can get more conversation going there. And I will send the link to the recording of this call around to everyone who registered for it tomorrow. So thank you, everyone, and I hope we'll see you next month, and good village building till then. Thanks again for coming, and I will play the saxophone one of these days, promise you. Maybe that's a Christmas treat. Okay, cheers everyone, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for coming, Adrian. Good to see you. There we go. Thanks, Titus. Thank you, Joan. Nice to see you, as always. Thank you, Richard, for your help. Much, much appreciated.
I noticed you didn't encourage